I think what we can say at the outset is that a lot of Mitt Romney's foreign policies are economically driven, economic sanctions, economic pressure. So let's start with Israel. Buck, where do you see the differences here? Are there any? Is a lot of this rhetoric, of course. We have no record to look at for Mitt Romney.
Right. I think it's a difference in tone and tenor. You know, there were a few dust-ups, major dust-ups on the diplomatic front between this administration and Israel. And it's become pretty clear to most observers that there's not a lot of love between Netanyahu and Obama.
Right.
But in terms of the actual implementation of policies on the ground, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. And in fact, this now more than ever, given that it's an election year, you're going to hear how similar the Obama and Romney foreign policies are, from the Obama side, I should say. They're going to be making the case that there is, in fact, no daylight between the two. So there's differences in the way that they speak about these things. For example, the issue over the 1967 lines and a return to that. That raised a lot of hackles in Israel for a very important reason. This goes back decades. This is at the heart of the discussion, what needs to be done, the two-state solution or not, et cetera. That's a big problem. But Obama would be the first person to say, and is going to be the first person to say, Israel's our staunchest ally in the Middle East. That Egypt and Turkey must forge strong relations with Israel, et cetera. So I don't
think Romney wades, though, into the specifics of what's going on in Egypt and Syria? Do you think he wants to get in the mud with that against a sitting president who's actually had to govern on that?
He's establishing here philosophy for his foreign policy, because he hasn't been able to fake philosophy, because unless he was ordering the Massachusetts National Guard to invade Canada, which I was not aware of him ever doing.
I don't think that happened.
I don't think it happened either. He doesn't actually have, to his background, to his credit, any real foreign policy experience.
Right.
But as
except mission work in France.
Which, in fairness, when you look at Barack Obama, he obviously did not either. And in fact, in a lot of times in foreign policy, the credibility comes after the job.
Right.
Look at Leon Panetta, Secretary of Defense, CIA director. Before that, he was like some guy in Congress who did budget stuff. So,
well, you get that with governors, though. You got to be fair to the fact that his last political office, Bill Clinton was a governor, Reagan was a governor, Bush was a governor. Governors don't develop the foreign policy chops
but they get the executive
leadership. Senators and congressmen, mostly senators,
who sit on foreign relations chair, get that.
He's also clear about not taking military options off the table. He keeps that out there, and I think that tougher tone is part of a peace through strength philosophy.
Right.
So I think that's.
Obama says he drops a lot of missiles on people. Anyway, sorry.
But I think too the tonal difference that you're mentioning is substantively important. When President Obama said that he would support the 1967 borders, that was a debacle. And Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, within 3 days at AIPAC, said, "Don't listen to that. We're not making foreign policy in the press. We're not making foreign policy on the fly." And President Obama had to roll that back. And as we saw with the Palestinian statehood bid, my sense is that President Obama wouldn't necessarily be against that, but he knew because of his attitude towards Israel up to that point, he had to take that position. At the UN, the Security Council, for the very first time now, is hearing about human rights abuses apparently being committed by Israeli officials for the very first time, and this is under an Obama administration. I think Romney would do that differently, and I think there would be substantive differences in terms of administration policy.
Do you think there's a difference between second term policy? I mean, we know that Obama has
a second-term Obama administration.
He'll have a lot more flexibility.
And this is actually historically there's a pretty clear precedent. A second-term Obama administration will do everything in its power to force, cajole, just shy of threaten Israel into making whatever deal it has to do to have a Middle East peace mandate, because that will be the legacy.